We'll begin our practice standing aside your chair this morning. Sometimes these hot summer days just beg for us to use a little more energy to incrementally bring our energy level up just a bit. So we'll test that out this morning. If at any time you feel as if you prefer to use a little less energy, you can always transition back to being seated on the chair, and very likely we'll end up there as well, but we'll flip it around and start standing today. Take a moment in your standing posture to literally feel the bottoms of your feet, perhaps shifting your weight from toes to heels. Here comes Mary. And just feeling the texture of the floor beneath your feet. Shaking out those arms just a bit, letting them dangle and move. Introducing movement gently to activate energy in the body. Perhaps roll out the shoulders, or even pause to take a look around your room, letting your gaze land on focal points that are close to your gaze, and then further away, establishing proprioception in the space around you, and also can't speak today. Also validating a sense of safety for the space that you're in, because we know that when the nervous system feels balanced, we have a much better opportunity to stay present within the body when we have a sense of safety established outside of ourselves. So using these first few moments to just get grounded, to feel safe, to notice any sensations that are present within the confines of your skin that you'll be working with as you move your body and breathe in today's practice. Our first action today will be mudra. Pressing your palms together, weave all the fingers together and extend the little fingers. Our theme this week is Murti Mudra. That mudra that evokes a sense of safety, steadiness, calmness. However you like to see yourself moving into the future, allow your hands to rest just at the solar plexus below the ribs. And use whatever imagery comes to mind to imagine yourself moving through each moment of this day, each day of this week, with a steady, calm demeanor, an even breath, and very intentional movements of your body. And we'll practice that in our chair yoga movement today. Allow for softness between the upper and lower jaw. And if there's any tension in the muscles of your face, allow it to relax, let it go. Soften the knees. And just feel an overall sense of relaxation if you can find that in your body this morning. And then softening your hands to your sides. It doesn't matter which side of the chair you're standing on, but we'll position ourselves to one side of the chair and then turn to face that side of the chair. And we'll pick up the footprint that is closest to the backrest and the back legs of the chair and place it onto the seat of the chair. We're going to be moving our weight forward and back to awaken the hip joints, knees, and ankles. So the first order of action is to figure out where your footprints need to be placed so that as you glide the hips forward and that back heel lifts away from the earth, your forward knee lands vertically aligned over the heel. And once you have your foot position in order, activate the core, draw the TA, the transverse abdominis, in to narrow the waistband, lock down the inner and outer obliques, and we'll just gently rock the hips forward and back, bending and unbending that forward legs knee. And you can leave your hand to rest onto the back of the chair for added stability. Our goal is to keep the back leg's knee straight And just feel that gentle sense of movement forward and back. That free hand can sit atop the thigh bone of the forward leg with its footprint placed upon the seat of the chair. And just find a comfortable range of motion that begins to stretch the glutes and hamstring just a bit of the forward legs, thigh and hip, and stretches the hip flexor of the back straight leg. If you're looking to check how your balance is functioning this morning, you might consider bringing thumbs to the heart and just see how it feels to remove the steadiness of the hand resting on the backrest of the chair. Just getting a sense of gentle movement, core activation. And of course, we're always moving within the rhythm of your breathing. And the next time that your hips glide forward, the forward knee bends, and your back heel is gently lifted, we'll hold on to the backrest of the chair and lengthen the opposite arm forward. And then from here, we'll move into a warrior stance, taking the forward arm up overhead. So this will be our interpretation of warrior one today. The back heel is gently lifted. Unless it feels better to keep it flat, you can just draw your hips back a bit. Or you can sink a little deeper and balance onto the ball of the foot. And from here, we'll let that hand fall back down to level to the earth. And we'll slide our weight into that back foot and open up. And I miscalculated and am too close to the wall. So hopefully you have room to stretch out that arm. And we'll transition between these two postures. Our chair interpretation of warrior one, and then opening up into warrior two. Shifting your weight forward, just as we did as we were warming. And then letting both footprints rest flat and your hand stabilize you with the backrest of the chair in both interpretations, warrior one and warrior two. Nice, easy breaths here, awakening the upper body as well as continuing to challenge the lower body here. Getting off to a quick start. And the next time that you breathe into your version of warrior one, we'll let those raised fingertips fall straight past the horizon and land onto the seat of the chair, dropping your back heel and flexing the ankle on the footprint that's resting on the seat of the chair. Will come into a static hamstring stretch, squaring the hips and letting your heart center fall across the length of your raised extended leg. And then lifting the heart center, lean into the backrest of the chair and pick up that foot from the seat of the chair and bring it back down to the earth. We'll return to mountain pose. And more than likely, you're feeling a little bit of imbalance between left and right sides of the body. So let's work on evening that out by transitioning to the opposite side of the chair to find your standing posture. And then we'll turn toward the side of the chair. And the leg that's closest to the back legs of the chair lifts up onto the seat of the chair.
Okay.
Take my footprint all the way across the seat of the chair. And then begin to bend and extend. Sliding those hips forward and back. Feeling your weight shift. And perhaps that back heel lift Or maybe the hips are moving in a small enough range of motion that the back heel remains flat to the earth. Whichever variation works best for the level of flexibility, strength, and endurance that you're working with in your body this morning. And also making sure that the forward leg's footprint is far enough onto the seat of the chair that as your hips slide forward and drop down, that forward knee stays vertically aligned over the heel. This is a nice lunge, and it's also preparing us for our Warrior One configuration. Let your breath find its own pathway here, perhaps inhaling as the hips slide forward and exhaling as the hips glide back. And the next time that your hips glide forward and soften down into gravity, we'll lengthen the arm closest to the back leg on that side of the body all the way forward. And then proceed all the way overhead. This is our Warrior One or deep lunge organization of the body. And then we'll let those fingers fall back down to the horizon, activate the core, and open up into our Warrior Two expression. And you can spin on the ball of the foot and raise the heel on the back leg, or you can position that back foot flat to the earth and simply leave it flat-footed to the earth. So a couple different options, whichever one allows you to sense and feel a strong level of stability in your movement. There's some nice sweeping arms here, so you have the option to choose whether you're going to really focus on waistband, shoulders, and arms, or if perhaps you're really enjoying this sense of movement and warmth generated in the hips, and you decide to tone the arms down and just really focus on the shifting energies of your foundation between Warrior Two and Warrior One. One last time, we'll open up into Warrior Two and then close into Warrior One. Softening those hips down for a final stretch and then letting the fingers fall past the horizon to land onto the seat of the chair. Then draw the hips back, flex the forward raised legs, ankle, and just find a nice easy hamstring stretch. We're also stretching into the low back here. Gliding your heart center along the inside edge of that raised forward leg. Softening into stillness and deep breath here. And then with an inhale, we'll slowly let that footprint fall flat to the earth. And then we'll pick up the footprint and place it back down to the earth. Standing tall in mountain pose and perhaps feeling a little greater sense of balance, but standing here long enough in a nice easy breath that you can feel energy falling back into symmetry, front and back, left and right, top and bottom. 6 directions of the spine, fluid, and the breath moving effortlessly. Reposition your stance so that you are now standing behind your chair. And we'll continue with just a few lunges alternating from side to side. We already did a motion very similar to this in our warrior postures, but this is going to bring the energy level up even a little further. And it doesn't have to be a giant step back. Just lengthen the leg back, let the toes drop to the earth, and then press the hips down and feel that long leg stretched behind you. Then step together to mountain and repeat upon the other side. This is very intentional movement from side to side with very little lateral shifting of the pelvis as you step forward and back. It's almost as if you're operating in a hallway that is only as wide as your hips. And there's no room for those hips to sway from side to side. So we activate the core and hold your hips in the center of your mat as you alternate stepping back to one footprint and then the other. If you want to add spinal rotation in once again, almost as we did in that last sequence, you can let arm drift back. And rotation to arise out of the waistband. The rotation is optional if you prefer to keep the heart center facing forward. Always an option, or perhaps you'll decide to rotate every other breath. One breath on each side with arm motions, and then one breath on each side with the heart in stillness. Returning to mountain, we'll continue standing behind the chair, but we'll turn to face a side wall. So one hand easily stays connected to the backrest of the chair, but we've taken a 90-degree turn away from the back legs of the chair. Coming into a balance pose, this is our tree pose for today. We can pick up one footprint, and you have many options for using the chair as a support for balance. But we'll all begin by picking up the toes, I am sorry, I said that wrong. By picking up the heel and leaving your toes resting upon the earth. And we want to pause here to make sure that we didn't throw the weight of the hips into the foundational leg. Draw them back, hold them tall, even though we're balancing in one foot. The pelvis literally has not shifted. We're still drawing our energy up tall. This is balance. From here, you can accomplish everything you need to in regard to balance in our practice today. But other options include opening up the hip joint of the bent leg. And then you can let your fingertips move away from the back of the chair, or maybe one set of fingertips remain on the chair. Or you can start to pick up those toes and maybe let them latch on to the crossbar between the back legs. This just adds hip opening. So we've got some action going on here at the pelvic floor and the inner thighs. And yet another option, and you might need to move away from the back of the chair to do this comfortably, is to take those toes and balance them onto the back edge of the seat of the chair. You have the added advantage of letting your shin rest into the backrest, but this is a very deep hip opener in addition to balance. And then let's go back to Murti Mudra, calm and steady, lacing the fingers together and extending the little fingers, but we'll keep the heels of the hands resting at the solar plexus for a little more sense of grounding. So whatever your choice for tree pose ends up being, don't forget you can always return to the classic footprint resting along trunk of tree in your posture as well, making it a freestanding balance pose. And if you want to bring those hands further away from the heart, you could experiment with taking Murti Mudra all the way overhead, letting those little fingers guide your energy skyward as the remaining fingers remain laced together. Wherever you land, don't forget to breathe. Disassemble your posture with attention. Slowly deconstructing, coming back to mountain. Noticing any areas of your body where muscular tension has become predominant. And be sure to take a moment to soften after your attempt at tree pose on one side. And maybe coming into stillness doesn't work very effectively to release tension. You can always pick up a leg and give it a little shake along with your wrists, hands, and forearms. It's a great way to just redistribute energy. You can just simply turn and face the other side, but I'm sweeping my chair around so I can remain facing the camera as we practice our tree pose on the opposite side. Finding that stance just a short distance away from the back legs of the chair that allows you to easily hold onto the backrest for stability. And then we'll pick up the heel of the leg closest to the back legs of the chair. And you're already in balance here. It's as far as you need to go if you're feeling like you might be a little unsteady at the core today. But pause here before you proceed any further to make sure that you haven't dumped the weight into the foundational leg and the hips have traveled toward the wall beside you. Keep your energy flowing skyward. And then from this place, you can decide if you want to open up external rotation into the hip joint of the floating leg. And then it's just all that remains is where you're going to place those toes along the trunk of your tree, resting lightly onto the crossbar of the back legs of the chair, or perhaps even finding their way a little higher onto the seat of the chair with your shin gently bumping into the backrest of the chair for added stability. We're really going for the inner thigh opening here. And then of course we finish it with Murti Mudra. And if you find a place of stillness that feels good and stable for your body, you can take that mudra all the way overhead. Big breaths, keep the energy moving in, moving out. Use your deep core, don't let the glutes do all the stabilizing here. Tap into that deep core, soften the periphery. Notice any tension that builds in the space between your brows. Using the breath, soften the surface of your skin. And then slowly, if your arms are extended, let them fall back closer to the core. And we'll bring both footprints back down to the earth, deconstructing mindfully, coming back to a centered place. And let's step away from the chair and just practice a little bit of washing machine. Just standing far enough away that your fingers don't bump into the backrest of the chair as you start the agitator and create some gentle motions from side to side, rotating the spine. This is a very lighthearted attempt at rotation. Arms are long and heavy. And then coming back into stillness, we'll turn to face the back of the chair. We're actually going to practice chair pose using the chair as a prop. Standing as far away from the back of the chair as you can so that your fingers just lightly touch the backrest. We need a little space between our knees and the back of the chair so that we can drop the sitting bones and let your weight fall into the heels of your feet in chair pose. Do keep the knees drawn toward one another so that the thigh bones rest parallel. And then we'll reverse swan dive and let the arms float all the way overhead to a standing upward salute with a neutral spine. Check out the distribution of weight into your footprints. And then we'll release the hands past the side body, reach forward, and you can hold the arms parallel to the earth, or they can just simply return to the backrest of the chair for a little extra stability and support. Reverse swan dive, arms float overhead, weight evenly distributed into the bottoms of your feet. And then soften into your chair pose and feel the weight slip into your heels. Finding a nice easy pattern between those two postures, upward salute and chair. Focus on activating deep core strength and feeling the weight shift throughout the bottoms of your feet as your posture flows from one to the other. Inhale, upward salute. Exhale, chair. And the next time that your hips drop into chair, we've got a little extra challenge here. If you're up for it, you can either hold this posture, feeling strength and stability in your core, hips, and thighs, or you can roll one heel away from the earth as you keep the hips low in chair and practice balance. You might even lengthen your arms forward to the horizon here. And then let the hands rest back for stability as you place both heels to the earth and let the opposite heel rise. We'll finish this sequence by rising into a standing upward salute. Press the palms together, bring thumbs to the heart, and return to Murti Mudra. Steady, easy. Relaxing into the breath, standing in mountain. Calm and steady. And then releasing hands to the side body. We'll take a quarter turn. So now we're standing facing a side wall behind the chair. And we're going to practice a half 5-point star today. We'll add that little squat posture, this time standing behind the chair and facing the side wall, and bring one hand to the heart. So this is more of an awkward pose than a chair pose. And the difference is, in chair pose, we tend to bring the heart center forward and drop the sitting bones back behind us. In this version of chair called awkward pose, it's more about dropping the hips straight down. It's going to be less range of motion, but the shoulders, neck, and head remain, and as well as the hips remain over the heels. And it actually does feel kind of awkward. And you're going to feel it probably more in the front of your ankles as well. So standing facing a side wall, bring one hand to your chest, and we'll slide the hips straight down in our awkward pose. And then the hand from the chest and the outside leg furthest from the chair is going to extend as we lengthen and spread out. So it's a half of a 5-point star. And then we'll come back to our awkward pose. Remember, the booty doesn't stick out behind. It slides straight down and the heart remains projecting to the horizon. And then extend into your half 5-point star. Come back down, bring your energy in, hold that tension in the low back, and then breathe between those two postures. Cultivating a sense of rising and falling with as little leaning into the chair as you can muster. So you may have to bring back your range of motion. It's a tiny knee bend. And maybe it's a little more timid extension so that we don't get a lot of lateral movement. We're trying to just move straight up and down. But extending arm and leg to create a little more challenge in our awkward pose and our half shooting star. The next time you find yourself in shooting star, we'll hold that posture and perhaps even experiment with what it might feel like to let both arms extend overhead, knowing that you can always place those fingertips back down to the backrest of the chair as needed. Don't forget to breathe here. We don't want to suspend the breath. And then slowly return to standing mountain. And we'll practice awkward pose and shooting star on the other side. You can simply turn. Lots of leg work today. Lots of big, strong core movements. We're almost ready to go back to a seated position. Actually, we haven't sat down yet, so we're ready to go to a seated position, but we still need to balance out the body from left to right with awkward pose. And then standing. Just getting a sense of keeping the shoulders, neck, and head aligned vertically over the hips. So the booty does poke out behind us, but we really work to keep the shoulders, neck, and head vertically aligned. Then you can bring that hand to the heart and begin expanding your energy out into 5-point star, the half story. Finding a nice easy flow of breath, feeling and sensing the alignment of the torso and how it might feel a little different than our first set of chair poses. And the best way to describe this version is that it's awkward. The next time that your body creates the shape of a shooting star, we'll hold onto our foundation, and you might even consider taking both hands skyward, balancing in one foot, in shooting star, strong across the upper back to suspend your long levers skyward. And then slowly returning to standing mountain. And we've been practicing chair pose, so let's use our activated inner strength to take a seated posture. So we'll move to stand in front of the seat of the chair, and do make sure that the back of your knees or shin bones are in proximity to the chair, literally touching, so we don't miss the seat of the chair. As you extend your arms forward, and then take that awkward pose, keeping those knees parallel to one another, and slowly releasing your sitting bones to the seat of the chair. And then once your sitting bones have landed, you can make any adjustments that are necessary so that your sitting bones perch at the forward edge. Your footprints find a resting place beneath the knees, and the hands find the tops of the thighs. And you can just let your hands flow across the top of the thighs, a little tactile feedback. We've released our sitting bones and the weight of the torso into the seat of the chair. So the hips, thighs, knees, and ankles get a little bit of a break. Let's add rotation here simply by letting one hand slide toward the knee, and that should naturally rotate your heart to one side. You can let your gaze follow and alternate between gazing toward one side wall and then the other. Bringing some energy up into the shoulders, neck, and jaw, scanning the horizon. Feeling your core, specifically the inner and outer obliques, which create rotation of the trunk, activating. And finding a nice easy rhythm of breath, exhaling to a side wall, inhaling back to center, exhaling to the opposite side wall. And then finally, when you turn toward a side wall, hold the posture. Keep the breath flowing as the body transitions into stillness. See if you can sense and feel the added work involved in holding the shoulders, neck, and head perpendicular to the pelvis, and the added effort it takes to bring a good steady flow of oxygen into the lungs through a rotated spinal column. Soften the effort, unwind the spine, take your gaze back forward toward the horizon. Soften here for a deep breath, and then we'll exhale to the other side. We're using the obliques to hold spinal rotation We're also using our shoulders to help rotate the shoulder girdle, feeling some gentle rotation at the neck as well. And once you press into that space of resistance, can you keep the breath flowing? Unwind with your gaze, come back to neutral, and we'll let the hands drop to either side of the outer thighs and take a sun breath, letting the arms sweep past the side walls and float all the way overhead. When the palms align and touch, we'll leave the little fingers extended, weaving the remaining fingers and thumbs together in Murti Mudra. Steady and comfortable, maybe moving the neck a little bit here as the arms continue to reach overhead. You might gaze up through your aligned fingers, or you might let the chin roll to the chest and feel that disparity of arms reaching overhead and head falling forward into gravity. And just notice which action feels more comfortable and more tension relieving for your body. The downward gaze that lengthens the back of the neck, or the upward gaze that lengthens the throat and the front of the neck. One or the other might feel a little more comfortable, so just go with what feels filled with ease. And then bringing your gaze back to the horizon, we'll add in our seated crescent moon, still holding the hands in Murti Mudra. Now breathing into the side body from shoulder to hip and feeling the obliques on the opposite compressed side of the waistband hold us in this position, preventing us from tipping over and crashing onto the floor. Use your core strength. And then slowly rise back to shoulder girdle neutral. And we'll lean into the opposite side. Now remember, the pelvis stays balanced here onto the seat of the chair, while the space between shoulder and hip widens. And again, you can feel and sense the side waistband that's compressing, inner and outer obliques, locking down the side waistband to keep you from tipping over. And then slowly come back to neutral, and we'll draw a figure 8 upon the ceiling. Glue the biceps to either side of the head so that you're truly moving your entire torso, and you can feel the shifting through your sitting bones as you draw a figure 8 with those extended pinky fingers upon the ceiling of your practice space. And the next time your fingers cross in the center of that figure 8 image, we'll soften the hands and just give them a little shake all the way back down to the side body. Just gentle release of tension. When you get to the bottom, add in a few extra shakes, maybe some shoulder drops to create even more heaviness in those arms after all that effort. And then let's take our attention back down to the lower half of the body, and we'll just let the knees sway from side to side. Feeling the ball and socket joint at the hips, rotating through internal and external rotation, soft and easy. And the next time your knees pass through neutral and those footprints rest so light and easy, flat to the earth, we'll extend one leg, dropping into the heel and flexing the ankle, and then just slowly lean over the extended leg. Just until you start to feel that activation of lumbar spine, the QL, where they attach to the back rim of the pelvis, the lumbar vertebrae, and then proceed up to attach to the lowest ribs in the back. So 3 basic attachment points, although the QLs rest predominantly vertically, there are some side attachments into our lumbar vertebrae. We're looking to feel a little stretch there because we've been working those QLs in the core pretty assertively. When you're ready to come back upright, reverse swan dive. Let those arms float all the way overhead. And then as the hands and arms return to the side body, replace your extended legs, footprint flat to the earth as you return to seated mountain pose with ease. Then we'll lengthen out the opposite leg, balancing into the heel with a flexed ankle joint and letting your handprints slide down the extended leg to find that awakening of the QL on the back side of the body. More than likely, if you're feeling this in the QLs, it's going to be a little more intense on the side of the body with the extended leg. Reverse swan dive, let the fingers sweep past the side walls and float overhead. And then with a nice strong core, we'll press the palms together, bring the hands to the heart while simultaneously placing both footprints back flat to the earth. Let your hands fall to the tops of the thighs. We'll go back to swaying. And we haven't practiced our Charleston dance for a little while, so let's give that a shot today. We can take maybe the heels and toes out away from one another, one step, and then let your knees fall together and tap. And that's where the hands cross over, and then take a little ride as the knees come apart so that you're rounding the spine and feeling that little tug on the upper back. Knees fall in together and the hands return to their respective knees. And when the knees part, we press the heart forward. So we're alternating between cat pose and cow. As the forearms cross, the chin rolls to the chest. And as the knees and hands part, the heart center presses forward into extension of the spine. Flexion, extension. And coming back to neutral with the hands resting atop their respective thighs, we'll heel to walk those footprints 1 or 2 steps even wider. Settle the pelvis, rocking from left to right, and begin to draw the heart center forward. Compress your forearms into your thigh bones for a little support of the weight of the upper body. Just hang out here. The belly gets out of the way of the thighs in this posture with the footprints wider. And let your wrists soften and your fingers dangle into gravity. And you can hang out here with a neutral spine, or you can go back to some cat and cow movements if you enjoyed that sensation. Or perhaps take the flexion a little deeper and let your fingers and hands slide down the shins, perhaps even landing to the earth beneath your footprints. It's a little deeper hip opening. Really just depends on your body, what feels like where do you feel like you're being invited to open up the body? Remember, we're always moving in a steady and comfortable way. Whether you're taking this forward flexion and hip opening a little deeper, or whether you are enjoying the cat and cow, or maybe it feels right to go back to some rotation. You could leave one elbow on the thigh and replace your handprint to the opposite thigh and turn toward that handprint. And then both forearms to the thighs and a handprint to the opposite thigh bone. So lots of different options for exploring movement here, whether it's rotation, deep flexion, or flexion and extension with cat and cow that draws your interest. Whatever you choose, you're moving steady and comfortable. And the next time that you come back to a neutral spine, we'll activate the core and reverse swan dive. Keep those footprints wide and spread the arms out overhead. We're gonna revisit 5-point star, this time from a seated posture, lengthening out the legs, flexing the ankles, just letting your legs serve as kickstands to either side, balancing upon the heels. Just feel your energy bubble expand and awaken. Let's bring the handprints back down to rest atop the thighs. We're gonna really fire up the core and bring footprints one at a time back to the earth. And then we'll walk our footprints with a little marching step back toward one another. We'll finish with one more hip opening on either side with a strong core. Pick up one leg and set the ankle over the opposite thigh bone. You can either stay here with a tall spine and just let that knee settle, or you can give it a gentle nudge by leaning the shoulders, neck, and head forward. Listen to where your median edge is. We're never looking to just blast into the maximum edge. If you lean forward, come back to neutral. Use your deep core strength to set that footprint back down to the earth and lean into that opposite side, picking up the ankle. And then noticing if there's resistance, we're just gonna let gravity carry this stretch. We're not gonna press. But if you do feel invited into a little deeper hip opening, you can lean the shoulders, neck, and head forward slowly and gently. And then coming back up to a tall spine, fire up the core and place your footprint to the earth. Hands and arms resting on either side of the body. We'll breathe a sun breath. Align your fingers into Murti Mudra. Little pinky fingers extended, the remaining fingers wrapped. Slowly descend your mudra down past the heart space to the lowest ribs, and then rotate your pinkies to angle and reach toward the horizon. Steady and comfortable, that's the pace that we've established. And our intention is to carry this gracefully throughout the remainder of our day. Lengthen all the fingers and spin those fingers to shine skyward. Lower the chin halfway toward the chest. This completes our practice together today. Namaste.